I'm Claire Maddox, and on the night of my father's 60th birthday, his grand glittering gala filled with investors' cameras and people who barely knew his middle name, he ordered me out like a misbehaving child. It happened so fast I barely had time to understand the humiliation settling in my chest. One moment I was lifting a glass to toast him. The next, my stepmother Vanessa leaned in with that gentle, poisonous smile she's perfected over the years and whispered something into his ear. I couldn't hear her words, but I didn't need to. I saw the shift in his expression, the slight tightening of his jaw, the disappointment he never bothered to hide when it came to me. He turned toward me in front of everyone, straightening his suit jacket like he was about to deliver a speech. Instead, he delivered a sentence. "Claire, you need to leave. Now. We'll discuss your behavior later." Conversations around us quieted. The band kept playing, but the melody felt distant, hollow, like it belonged to another room. Faces turned. Some curious, some pitying, most eager for drama. I stood there, frozen between outrage and heartbreak, trying to swallow the heat rising at the back of my throat. I didn't protest. I didn't ask what Vanessa told him. I didn't even look him in the eye. I just set my glass down, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the exit while the security guard, yes, an actual guard, followed a few steps behind to escort me out. Outside, the cold air felt sharper than it should have. The lights from the ballroom spilled across the pavement, casting long shadows that made the whole building look like a monument to a man I no longer recognized. As the door shut behind me, one truth settled into place, quiet and devastating. My father hadn't protected me in years, and tonight he made sure the whole world knew it. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen counter, staring at a bowl of oatmeal I wasn't going to eat. The gala felt unreal, one of those dreams where you can't tell if you're embarrassed or angry. My father's voice still echoed sharp and dismissive, just like when I forgot chores as a kid. Except now he wasn't scolding me for curfew. He was punishing me because Vanessa knew exactly which button to push. I tried to refocus on the spreadsheet open on my laptop. Novacore's quarterly projections glowed on the screen. Steady growth, new partnerships, the kind of results most founders chase. But my father never cared. He treated my achievements like coincidences, temporary milestones until I chose something sensible. He never said it outright, but the disappointment was always there, simmering beneath every forced smile. After Mom died, the distance between us only grew. Vanessa filled that space easily, polished, attentive, always saying the right thing. When she became part of our lives, I slipped out of them slowly and quietly. I'd hoped distance would make him see me more clearly. Instead, it made me disappear. I sipped my lukewarm coffee, replaying the humiliation from the night before, the hush of the crowd, the judgment, the feeling of being pushed out of a life that used to be mine. But beneath all of that was a truth I didn't want to face. It wasn't the public embarrassment that hurt. It was how quickly he believed Vanessa's version of me over the real one. I shut my laptop and breathed out slowly. Something inside had shifted. Not anger, not yet, but a hard, clean clarity. If he wanted distance, I could give him a kind he'd never come back from. By Monday afternoon, the illusion of calm had already cracked. I was reviewing a campaign proposal when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, short, formal, cold enough to chill my skin. Ms. Maddox, this is a courtesy notice regarding a scheduled review of your personal and business assets. You will be contacted within 48 hours. Signed, Hale & Partners Family Estate Legal Division, Vanessa's family firm. I set the phone down carefully. A review of my assets made no sense unless someone wanted to frame me or corner me. The thought tightened my pulse. Then another buzz, this time from my father. "Claire, come to the house tonight. We need to talk." No greeting. No apology for the gala. Just an order. I stared at the message, then grabbed my coat. I didn't owe him, but I needed answers. The house looked unchanged, perfect landscaping, soft, warm lighting, a curated kind of comfort that never felt real. Vanessa greeted me with a smile too polished to be sincere. "Claire," she said, "your father's in his study." Her heels clicked ahead of me. Dylan lay on the sofa scrolling his phone, muttering something about family loyalty. I didn't bother responding. Richard was pacing behind his desk when I entered. He didn't invite me to sit. "I need you to sign something," he said, sliding a folder toward me. "Novacore is too big to operate alone. It's best if part of your shares transfer into a family trust. Dylan will manage it." I blinked. "You want me to hand my company to your stepson?" "It's not personal," he said. But it was. Every part of it was. And in that moment, the last trace of naivety dropped away. I didn't touch the folder. I kept my eyes on my father, waiting for any sign of the man who raised me. But he stood there, rigid, impatient, already irritated that I hadn't grabbed a pen. "Dylan," I repeated. You want him to manage a tech company he can't even spell? Richard's jaw tightened. Don't be dramatic. This is about consolidating family assets. Orion Dynamics wants a clean structure before finalizing the $50 million deal. If your company looks too independent, it raises concerns. There it was. Not family, not unity, money. Vanessa entered, then perfectly timed, placing a manicured hand on his shoulder. You have to understand, Claire. Investors prefer everything under one roof. Dylan is learning. And this would be such a meaningful gesture of trust. I almost laughed. A gesture from me toward them. After everything. I pulled the folder closer and opened it. The contract was predatory, designed to strip me of control in one signature. Dylan would gain voting rights. Vanessa would gain oversight. My father would gain access. And I would lose the company I built. No, I said. Absolutely not. Richard's voice cracked like a whip. Don't be childish. This family has sacrificed for you. What sacrifices, I asked. Name one that wasn't a story you told yourself. His eyes flared. If you refuse, it jeopardizes the deal. You're putting my reputation at risk. You think Orion will wait for your tantrum? A cold smile tugged at my lips. I'm not putting anything at risk, I said. But you might want to read Clause 14.2 in Orion's contract, the one requiring a renewal signature from the Chief Strategy Officer. He frowned, confused. And that would be... me. For the first time, fear flickered across his face. He finally understood he needed me far more than I would ever need him. The silence that followed pressed against my ribs. Richard's mouth opened, then closed again like he didn't know what to ask. Vanessa stepped forward first. Her smile stretched too tight. What are you talking about, Claire? She said, patronizing and cautious. I didn't look away. Novacore owns the strategic licensing rights to the predictive AI Orion needs. And per Clause 14.2, any renewal or integration requires the signature of the Chief Strategy Officer. I tapped my chest. Me. Dylan snorted from the hallway. So she's like... important? Vanessa's glare nearly vaporized him. Richard collapsed into his chair, stunned. Why didn't I know this? Because you never asked, I said. You never cared what I built, only what you could use. His eyes snapped up, pride stinging. That's not fair, Claire, fair. I kept my voice level. You humiliated me, sent lawyers after my assets, tried to hand my company to someone who can't manage his own schedule. And now you want fairness. Vanessa's mask slipped. If you don't sign, you could jeopardize everything your father created. I stepped closer. No. You jeopardized it the moment you tried to cut me out. Fear flickered across her face. Richard rubbed his temples. Claire, the Orion deal is critical. If you refuse, it could destroy this family. This family destroyed itself long before today, I said. No one spoke. The air conditioning hummed like the house itself was holding its breath. I closed the folder and placed it on the desk. You know where I stand. I won't be bullied into signing anything. I turned to leave. My father's voice followed, strained, almost pleading. Claire, please. I paused, but didn't look back. Clause 14.2, I said. Read it carefully. Then I walked out, leaving the silence behind me. The day of the Orion signing arrived with a tension you could feel in your teeth. I pulled into the Meridian Conference Center garage, watching black SUVs and luxury sedans line up like a procession of polished egos. Everything inside, billboards, flowers, security, screamed importance, and yet the only signature that actually mattered was mine. I entered through a side door, Novacore badge swinging against my blazer. A few Orion staff nodded without realizing I was the woman Richard Maddox had been scrambling to control all week. That suited me. The conference hall buzzed with investors and cameras. A massive LED backdrop flashed. Orion Dynamics, X, Maddox Group, Strategic Partnership, Signing Ceremony. My father stood near the front board members, circling him like loyal knights. Vanessa hovered at his side, smile, tight eyes, sharp. Dylan fidgeted in an oversized suit. They didn't notice me, but Orion's CEO Mara Ellington did. She approached with warm confidence. Claire. Perfect timing, she said. We'll bring you up after the intro speeches. Across the room, Richard finally saw us. Shock washed over his face. Vanessa stiffened. Dylan muttered, You've got to be kidding. The ceremony started. Applause cameras polished words. Richard was invited to speak, and he did smooth, confident describing a future he assumed was guaranteed. Then Mara returned to the podium. And now she announced, "We welcome the Chief Strategy Officer of Novacore Innovations, Ms. Claire Maddox." Dozens of heads turned. Richard froze. I walked onto the stage, steady and unapologetic. Mara handed me the contract open to the signature line. I lifted the pen. Then I set it down. "I'm unable to sign this agreement," I said, voice echoing, "due to undisclosed actions taken by Maddox Group that violate ethical and strategic compliance." Gasps swept the room. Richard's face went completely pale, and for the first time in my life I watched my father look small. The silence after my announcement didn't feel like silence at all. It felt electric alive, like the entire room had inhaled at the same time and forgotten how to breathe out. Cameras zoomed in. Executives whispered urgently to one another. Someone near the back muttered, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Richard stepped forward, panic bleeding into his voice. "Claire, what are you doing? We can discuss this privately." But there was no privately left. Not after what he'd done. Not after how far he'd pushed me. I kept my gaze forward. Novacore cannot renew licensing with any partner connected to asset coercion, harassment, or fraudulent legal pressure. All three apply here. I looked directly at Vanessa. Documented. Her smile vanished like it had been slapped off her face. Mara Ellington lifted an eyebrow, clearly realizing she was standing in the middle of a corporate explosion. "Is this true, Mr. Maddox?" Richard stammered. "She's exaggerating. Twisting things, the girl is emotional," and that was the moment the last thread between us snapped. I turned toward the audience, my posture steady enough to cut glass. "I am emotional," I said. "Just not in the way he wants you to think. I'm emotional because for years this man I pointed to, Richard, dismissed every accomplishment I ever made. And when I built something successful without his name attached, he tried to take it. Through lawyers, through manipulation, through humiliation." A murmur rolled through the hall, and now I continued. "He expected me to quietly surrender so he could benefit from a deal he never earned." Richard reached for my arm, but I stepped back, his fingers closing on nothing. "Claire, please," he whispered voice, breaking not from love, but from fear. Fear of losing the one thing he worshipped more than family reputation. But I was done saving him. I turned to Mara. "Novacore officially withdraws participation from this partnership, effective immediately." Mara nodded solemnly. "Understood." Gasps erupted again. Phones came up. Reporters started firing questions. Within minutes, Orion staff were escorting Maddox Group out of the hall like a disgraced royal family. Richard looked back at me, one's eyes desperate hollow. Vanessa stormed out in the opposite direction. Dylan cursed under his breath, face bright red. And I stood there not victorious, but finally free. The kind of freedom you only earn by choosing yourself over the people who never chose you back. When the last camera turned away, and the room finally emptied, I felt the kind of quiet that doesn't happen often in a place built for power. The giant LED screen still glowed behind me, announcing a partnership that would never exist, its bright colors fading into irrelevance. I stood there alone for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle, not heavy, not painful, just real. Just outside the hall, reporters chased after the Maddox Group like sharks scenting blood in the water. Headlines were already forming in my mind. Maddox deal collapses. Heiress exposes coercion. Novacore executive shuts down. $50 million contract. But none of that was why my hands felt steady. When I stepped into the hallway, Mara caught up to me. "You didn't hesitate," she said. "Most people would have folded under that kind of pressure." I gave her a small smile. "Most people don't have my father." She chuckled softly, then her expression softened. "Novacore's lucky to have you." For the first time in a long while I believed that. I took the elevator down alone. Each floor that passed felt like shedding another layer of weight, expectations I never asked for, guilt that wasn't mine, and a loyalty I'd been clinging to long after it had turned toxic. When I reached the lobby, my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Richard. I didn't listen, not because I hated him, but because I was finally done letting his voice drown out my own. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long lines of gold across the pavement. Cars rushed by. People hurried past. Life moved on, as if a multi-million-dollar empire hadn't just collapsed upstairs. I breathed in the warm air, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Space. Room to exist without shrinking. I walked toward my car with steady steps, heels tapping against the concrete in a rhythm that sounded less like escape and more like reclamation. Novacore would be fine, better than fine. My team had my back. My work stood on its own. And I no longer needed my father's acknowledgement to validate any of it. As I reached the driver's door, I paused and looked up at the sky, soft blue, wide open. Success didn't feel like revenge. It felt like finally stepping into the life I built with my own hands, and this time no one could take it from me.